The Handkerchief by Great 78. Chapter 81. Meet the Parents. An hour later, back at the manor, Draco claimed to have a headache that sent him to bed before dinner. He returned to the small copse of trees in Hampstead Heath, near Hermione's house. It was now after 6 and her parents would be home. "Orchideo," he murmured as he turned up Hermione's garden path to her home. A bouquet of flowers sprang from his wand, and he conjured a blue ribbon to magically tie in a bow around the stems. The door swung open a moment after his knock, revealing a tall man who stared at him with hardened eyes. "It must be Draco," the man said through thinned lips. His short sandy hair was several shades lighter than Hermione's, and far shorter, but his eyes were nearly identical to hers. "Dr. Granger," Draco said, holding out his hand with a smile. Hermione had already briefed him a bit about Richard and Helen Granger, so he felt confident, but the man's demeanour was a bit frightening. "We've heard a lot about you over the years," Hermione's father said, and Draco could tell from his tone that at least some of it, probably the early stuff, had not been good. "Yes, sir." Draco met the man's gaze evenly. "I want you to know, Dr. Granger, that I've always wanted to keep Hermione safe in the wizarding world. She's very special to me." Her father seemed to consider this for a long moment, before nodding briefly once. Then he raised an arm, gesturing Draco inside. "Care to watch the end of this match?" Draco sat on the sofa, eyes drawn to the green field of grass on the large telly across the room. The telly he'd seen years ago was much smaller than this. This one had to be nearly 30 inches wide. Gigantic, Draco thought. The players were running around on foot instead of flying, and Hermione was right. They didn't appear to be beaters bats, or a snitch. But the game was fascinating. Draco resolved to locate a football as soon as possible to try some of the moves the players were doing on the pitch. "What's your team, Draco?" Dr. Granger asked. Oh, I forget. They didn't play football at Hogwarts, so wizards don't know it well, right?" Draco reddened. "You're right, Dr. Granger, but it seems similar. This bloke's the keeper, yes? We call these," he indicated 2 others on the screen, "chasers." "Those are forwards, or strikers," Dr. Granger began, eager to explain the game to a novice. By the time Hermione came into the living room from chatting with her mother over dinner preparations, Crookshanks sat between the 2 men, watching the ball on the screen keenly. Draco was allowed to call her father Richard, and they were high-fiving in celebration as Norway scored over Iceland. "I thought Tottenham took summers off, Dad," Hermione said knowingly. "They do. This is just a replay of yesterday's friendly. Not much out there to watch. Hey, Draco, do you like cricket?" Dad!" "Sorry, Crabcake, I was only wondering." Draco felt as though he'd missed something. "Crabcake?" he asked, perplexed. "My silly nickname for my little hermit crab here. Hermione always used to love to hide away in her room, reading, even as a youngster." Richard slung an arm around his daughter and kissed the top of her head. The other Dr. Granger, an older but no less attractive version of Hermione with soft wavy brown curls, appeared from around the corner to meet Draco, and to remind her husband to select some wine to go with the beef Wellington. Draco remembered his manners and presented her with the flowers he'd conjured, much to her delight. Within minutes of meeting the blue-eyed, brown-haired woman, Draco was calling her Helen and exchanging thoughts about gardening and politics with her. The 4 sat in lively discussion for dinner, and Draco inwardly marvelled at their family dynamic. Whereas his own family was drawn and reserved, the Grangers were open, friendly, welcoming of outside opinions and perspectives. They talked about sports, elfin welfare, travel, and books. Each topic overlapped and blended into the next. By the end of the meal, Draco had offered to take Richard to a wizarding golf course sometime, and had agreed to make scones some day with Helen. "Draco, let's get to these dishes," Richard said, grabbing as many plates as he could carry. Draco knew no house elves lived here, and he supposed he was about to find out what Tiffy and the other kitchen elves did after meals. 30 minutes later, his hands pruny from the washing up and his mind filled with brand new knowledge about all manner of sports. He and Richard found Hermione and Helen in the living room, football match turned off.
"Mum, Dad, we'd like to talk to you about something serious,"
Hermione began, and immediately the elder Grangers exchanged worried glances. "You're not expecting, are you?" Richard asked in an angry tone, staring daggers at Draco, and Draco's eyes widened as he choked on a second glass of wine.
"No! Dad! Why? No! Oh my God, Dad!"
Hermione spoke in a flustered rush. "Good." Her father still looked a bit thunderous, but spoke more calmly. "What's this about, then?" "I'm not sure if Hermione has talked much about what's going on in the wizarding world, but it's becoming more dangerous for muggle-born witches and wizards and their families. I'm not sure if she's told you, but my father—"
"Yes, she's told us a bit,"
Helen cut in.
"I can't say I'm pleased to hear that your family is involved in this, but I do empathize. My own father was abused by his father as a child. Dad loved his father, but eventually he had to cut him out of his life."
"Yes. Unfortunately, it's a bit complicated because of this dark wizard. My mother is trapped in this situation as well, and now I've been forced to join them."
Richard swore softly.
"So you're telling me you took this oath, or whatever, to follow that lunatic?" "I know, Hermione, and my mother would have been in danger if I did not. I would be tortured if I refused, sir, and he would have been able to read my thoughts. He would have known how much I care for Hermione, and he would have come directly for her. And both of you."
Helen gasped, and Richard dropped his head into his hands. "Mum, Dad, I've asked Draco to explain all this because I need you to know of the severity of the situation. I need for you two to go into hiding, leave the country, assume a new identity, just until this is resolved."
"But you said that could be years. And if you think I'm leaving my daughter alone to fight this monster with a group of teenagers, you've got another thing coming," Helen burst out. "Also, I didn't build my life, my family, my practice here just to abandon everything, Hermione. Your father and I worked too hard."
"I know, Mum."
Hermione hugged her mother. "Well, we'll go if you go." Richard spoke up quietly, nodding to Hermione. All three heads turned quickly to him. "Yes, perfect," Draco said in relief. That was his best-case scenario in all of this anyway.
"No! We've already talked about this, Draco."
"Hermione, you need to be kept safe. When all of this is over, there will still be so much to do. Our world will need people like you to rebuild."
"Harry needs help now, today, to try and defeat Voldemort. Without me, he and Ron
Plus, you're too important to sacrifice. I love you too much.
We'll get sidetracked. Plus, I've so much to be done, so much research done already, and
lose you now. It's so incredibly dangerous. The Order can survive. They can help Potter.
All the other voiceless, the Muggleborns we don't even know about, plus the elves and—"
Helen cleared her throat in an uncanny imitation of Dolores Umbridge. "I hate to interrupt this lovers' quarrel, but Draco has a point. Hermione, if we are not safe, you certainly won't be. I know Harry is important to you, and I know you say he's got an important task to accomplish, but dear, there are others that can help." Hermione's mouth was set in a thin line. The four sat in silence for a moment. Then Draco spoke up. "Let me leave you three alone for a moment to discuss it. Richard, can you point me to the nearest lavatory?" Once in the small loo, Draco took out his handkerchief and spoke into it softly. "Hermione, let them think you'll go with them. Make a plan. Find out where they want to go. Get aliases, backstories, paperwork, accounts changed. Then you can tell them you're not going if you still wish to stay." There was no reply, but his handkerchief cooled, letting him know she'd read his words. When he emerged a moment later, the tension had eased in the room considerably.
"Hermione has agreed to go with us," Richard announced. "She says she can change our names on our passports and our driver's licenses, get our accounts changed as well."
He looked at his wife lovingly.
"You know, we've always wanted to honeymoon in Australia. Couldn't afford it at the time. Couldn't take the time off when we were first starting out, love. What do you think?"
"It's cool there, now. A break from this muggy heat might be nice," Helen ventured hopefully. "It will be lovely, Mum." Hermione smiled, a small tear in her voice that Draco hoped wouldn't give away the ruse. He and Hermione left them looking at travel books and maps of Australia, talking about how to find a realtor there, and whether their winter coats might be too heavy for the mild Sydney winters. They walked down the street slowly to the apparition point.
"You might like Australia, too. Just to visit,"
Draco quickly amended.
"I know you hate deceiving them, but it really is the best option. Disappearing will take time, even with a magic wand, to do most things."
"You're right, of course, but I think I'm still going to meet resistance. I don't think they'll let me leave when it comes down to it." She took a deep breath and stopped walking, turning to face him. "You mentioned that you were creating a false memory for your team. How are you doing it?"
He hesitated. He'd told her that there was more to Snape's decision to kill Dumbledore than met the eye, but she didn't know that he was actively working with Snape on this task. No time like the present to come clean, though. When he told her, her hiss of distaste revealed what she thought of Snape. But, to her credit, she didn't admonish him about it.
I'll owl Snape to ask him his advice, then. Perhaps obliviation, or I can change their memories." Suddenly, her body heaved in a racking, hysterical sob. Draco drew her into his arms and looked around sharply to ensure that his muffliato and notice-me-not charms were holding steady.
"I can't believe I'm considering obliviating my parents," she wailed, tears falling thick and fast. "I love them so much, but I'm considering what? Erasing who they are? Erasing their memories of their only child?"
Her hysteria was building. "Shh. Shh, I know." Draco ran his hand down her hair, along her back. "It's just what has to be done, Hermione. If they're found, they're dead. We don't want that, so this is the only option." Her sniffle was her only answer. "Discuss it with Snape. Perhaps he knows of an option that's reversible, and can give you some useful advice." She only nodded. He looked down at her, copper eyes glowing in the streetlight, the yellow glow of the bulbs reflecting gold and amber from her riotous curls. She was so beautiful, her mind, body, and soul, even through her tears of sadness. She made his heart both ache and sing, all at the same time. "I'll see you tomorrow?" she asked.
"Yes. I've got to have curry, though, it smelled amazing today, and we didn't get any."
She laughed softly at him, shaking her head in amused disbelief. "Of course." They entered the copse of trees then. Anyone who happened to see them through Draco's charms would have assumed they were just another pair of horny teenagers searching for a bit of privacy. They would have been only partly right, because in between the kisses, the caresses, their longing embrace and small sounds of pleasure, there was much more. There was a war between two sides being fought, and they were caught in the middle, a third side all their own. Their own battles raged in their hearts, in their families, in their very existence together. Tomorrow might hold laughter, but it would certainly include tears as well. But it was a war they were willing to wage, if it meant that, when it was over, there could be love. Chapter 82. A water park, a lumberjack, and a green polo shirt. The next morning, right on schedule, Narcissa developed a headache after breakfast, and Draco walked her to her room out of concern, telling her that he would spend the day brewing instead. He changed into black dress trousers and a long-sleeved blue shirt with white muggle trainers, a shoe purchase he'd made at Hermione's suggestion the previous summer. They might not look as sharp as his dragon-hide boots, but he did have to admit they were incredibly comfortable. He also brought along a swimming costume with black and white stripes, as she said he might need it. When he appeared in the thicket of trees she was waiting for him. He turned to give her a full view of the ensemble. "Well?" he asked, with a grin. Without a word she made a swirling and slicing motion with her wand, changing the black trousers into light grey short trousers that came just above his knee. "It's going to be hot today," she explained at his look of horror. "I haven't worn short trousers since I was 6, Granger," he grumbled. "Besides, those are my favourite black trousers." "I'm sure you own 5 more pair." 7, he mumbled. 20 minutes and 2 apparitions later, however, he had to admit that she had been right. It was stifling, and the breeze felt nice on his legs. "Where are we off to again?" he asked as they made their way out of a bus station that had a permanently broken toilet which served as the nearest apparition point. She didn't answer, instead asking him, "Did you bring your cozy?" "Do you mean my swimming costume? Of course," he answered. "Good." 2 minutes later they approached a large and imposing structure that had brightly coloured tubes extending from all parts of it. "What is this, Mai?" "It's a water park," she sang out giddily. 3.5 hours later, Draco had to admit that he enjoyed water parks as much, or more, than he'd enjoyed the amusement park she took him to last year. It did not hurt that Hermione wore possibly the tiniest scraps of yellow fabric imaginable to cover herself. After his initial shock and worry that she might be arrested for indecency, he found that the most difficult part of the day was not getting too excited around her. That, and having to give dirty looks to all of the other blokes who could not help but stare at her. They changed back into street clothes and walked to a nearby Indian restaurant, as promised. It was now her turn to worry about him being arrested for indecency, as his moans of delight at the delicious food could be heard across the restaurant. They stopped at nearby Newcastle upon Tyne to confirm that the final Muggle-born that Snape had said had left was truly gone. That done, they turned their attention to the problem that was Claire Moffat. Her house in Carlisle was a modest place, the street outside crowded with small children playing in a water sprinkler. They found Claire acting as minder to the group, alongside one of her Muggle friends. She recognized Draco and Hermione as they approached. "Hi, Claire, how are you?" Hermione asked, breaking the tension because, as soon as they had rounded the corner, Claire's face wore a look of panic. "Hi, Hermione, and Draco, is it?" Claire asked, clearly perplexed as to why the two of them had arrived at her little house, together, with Muggle clothing and toused hair, and looking like a couple. "We were hoping to catch up with you a bit, if you don't mind. Is there some place we can go?" "Of course. Emily, can you watch Brian and the twins for me?" The other girl simply nodded, unable to look away from Draco. Once they had reached the privacy of the house, Claire turned to them, all pretense at friendship gone. "What's going on?" "As you know," Draco began, "the Dark Lord is trying to seize power. He's hunting for Muggleborns and their families." "Let me guess. He's using you to do the hunting? Not enough that you killed Dumbledore. He sent you here to kill me and my family too, yeah? And what, you imperious Harry Potter's girlfriend, and brought her with you just to demonstrate your dominance?" Claire snarled. "Claire, I'm not under the Imperious curse, and Draco did not kill Dumbledore. Harry Potter is my friend, not my boyfriend, and he saw who killed Dumbledore. It was not Draco. Draco has been my friend for years, and he could not do that. He's currently working as a double agent against Voldemort, trying to get Muggleborns to safety." The young witch stared at them another moment, then her shoulders slumped. "I've been worried about this for a while. Unfortunately, my family knows nothing about it. I've tried to keep it secret, so as not to worry them."
"The time has passed for secrets," Hermione said. "It's time to get you and your family to safety."
"Can you call your parents? Ask them to come home. Tell them it's an emergency. No one is hurt, but you need to speak with them," Draco urged. 4 long hours later they had accomplished what they set out to do. The Moffat family had agreed to relocate to Canada, using Draco's generous gift of the American and British bankbooks that his mother had tried to make him take the year before. Draco used his wand to change the necessary information inside of them, and passed them to Adam and Susan Moffat, who could not seem to decide if this was all just one huge prank, or simply a fever dream.
"But you must go tonight. Tomorrow morning at the latest. Draco and Claire and I can help you pack. We can show Claire the necessary spells needed to return everything to its normal size when you arrive. No, don't worry about underage magic or the statute of secrecy. Your parents and siblings already know about magic," Hermione comforted the young witch at her worried expression.
"But wasn't Harry Potter given a trial for doing magic last summer?" Claire worried her bottom lip. "The Ministry was watching him carefully, waiting for him to slip up. Apparently they aren't watching all of us that closely." She cast a knowing look in Draco's direction. "Well, at least not yet." Bags with their necessities, family mementos and heirlooms packed, the family walked with Draco and Hermione to a nearby pub that had a flu connection. As an extra precaution, as they were entering the magical establishment together, Hermione and Draco transfigured their appearance to avoid recognition. Draco brushed his curly dark red hair away from his eyes, grumbling about Weasleys, whilst Hermione laughed at him from under her straight black tresses. They arrived at the Standard Hotel at 8 in the evening, where Draco secured the family a large suite from Basil, the squib who worked there. The tall, thin man, always as unctuous as he was unusual, swept them a deep bow and promptly fell into conversation with Adam Moffat. A moment later the room fell silent when Basil exclaimed, "Ah! A lumberjack, you say? Yes, I've always thought that if I could start a new career, that I, too, would be a lumberjack. Cutting down trees, skipping and jumping, the wild flowers, and wearing women's clothing." There was silence for a beat. No, my good man, not lumberjack. I said I worked in medevac. Medical evacuation. I fly helicopters for Northwest Air Ambulance, taking badly injured patients to hospitals." "Right, well, jolly good then." Basil hurried the family into the corridor to the stairs. Claire hung back a moment. "I'm not sure what to say," she said haltingly. "Thank you doesn't seem like enough." "That's plenty enough," replied Draco. "I'm just happy I had a way to help you. I'm glad that you and your family will be safe." Claire gave them both a brief hug, clearly fighting back tears, and left quickly. Hermione and Draco kissed one another goodbye, and Draco hurried for the flu. Malfoy Manor, Scion Suite, East Wing. An hour later his handkerchief warmed as he sat in the dining room with his parents, Bellatrix, and Bellatrix's husband, Rodolphus. "So, Drakey Nibbles, how's the mudblood hunting going?" Bellatrix's teeth glistened with the fat of the steak she was tearing into. "Caught any yet?" "No. So far they've all already fled the country, it seems." Well, they can't all be gone. I'll bet Potter's stuck-up mudblood bitch is still around in any case. Wasn't she on your list, Neffykins?" Draco suppressed a shudder and answered, "Yes. We should be round to check on her by week's end." "And if you don't, not to worry, Draco. My team and I will be following up directly behind yours." Lucius smiled. Bellatrix gave him a hardened look. "I thought you weren't supposed to speak of this mission, Lucius. What, too much fire whiskey? Forgot so soon?" Bellatrix's harsh, clipped voice cut across the table. "I'm sure you'll find nothing," Draco responded. But inwardly he was frantic. Tomorrow was Wednesday. They had 3 days. They still needed to make contact with Ted Tonks and the Creevies to convince them all to leave, confirm that Justin was gone, and get the Grangers on a flight to Australia. And all in 3 days. This was in addition to the fake missions he was running with his team, complete with a fake memory created by himself and Snape. The time for water parks and curry was done. He needed to get this mission finished. Later, in his room, he read her message as the baby bird skated up and down his sleeve. "Justin called from the airport an hour ago. They left for Malta, his family and their entire staff. Also, I've called Colin and told him I will be coming by tomorrow on urgent business to ask his parents to be home at 10 in the morning. And I sent a note to Andromeda, asking for the same of her and Ted at 10 on Thursday morning." He sighed a huge sigh of relief. Without her help, this all would have gone pear-shaped quickly. He wrote back, "Any update about your parents?" "They are allowing me to pack their things. Mom wants to take nearly everything in the house. This belonged to my grandmother. We bought this in South Africa. This reminds me of when you were 4 years old. There's so much. I'm packing it magically, but I'm not going to be there to unpack it. I'm not sure what to do." "That sounds difficult. I'm sorry you're having to do all this. Did you hear from Snape?" A long pause, then she responded, "Yes, he's agreed to meet me at the apparition point nearby tomorrow at 4, after he implants memories for your team." Wednesday morning was a repeat of Monday, except that this time Draco invited them all to sit. He wouldn't need to waste magical energy levitating them, and besides, someone might recall that they were standing. He also transfigured their robes to look like black muggle suits with white dress shirts and muggle neckties. Merlin help him, he was not going to draw stares all day because he was being tailed by 3 Professor Snapes. This morning, Caro readily agreed to the drink. Apparently this elf-made ginger rum was far superior to any ginger rum he'd had before, and he was eager for a drink. "Had tons of energy all day yesterday, Gov. They ought to bottle and sell it. They should. Make millions, yeah?" Caro guffawed. Draco declined to tell the annoying wizard that he already had plenty of millions, and didn't need to peddle elf liquor for more, not to mention that he highly doubted that his elves would want that either. He was very glad when the sleeping draught took effect, and he could go and change clothes again. This time he chose a pair of khaki trousers that he modified into short trousers himself, and a black top. He charmed the dark mark with a notice-me-not and glamour charms, so that he wouldn't be burdened by having to look at it all day, as he had at the water park the day before. He charmed the top to be an emerald green, and changed the collar so that it looked like the one that his mother had made for him that day on platform 9 3/4. The collar folded over and had 2 buttons near the top. He apparated into the thicket of trees, and Hermione hurried towards him, stopping short to look at him up and down. He stood nervously, wondering what he'd gotten wrong. "You own a polo shirt?" she breathed. "Well, I transfigured it," he said nervously. Did I get wrong?" "Merlin, no. You just look so fit. I want to climb you like a tree. Oh, fuck. Can we just skive off today and go try on muggle clothing like you're in a dressing room montage from an 80s film?" She was on him then, wrapping her arms around him and kissing his neck deliciously. He hadn't understood hardly a single word of what she had said, but at the moment his lizard brain could not be asked to care. He wrapped his arms around her tightly. "Oh, Draco's words were cut off as they twisted in Hermione's apparition, landing in her bedroom. Crookshanks skittered out of the bedroom door at the loud crack, and the door flew shut. "Hermione, you're amazing. You're so hot. Oh, wait. Oh, your parents home?" He paused, shoes already toed off. "No, they're closing up their dental practice today. They won't be home until really late." He'd stopped hearing her at the word no. Within a minute they'd fallen to her bed. Their energy built, blended, transformed into a magic that neither of them could have generated alone. "Mine," he whispered to her. "You'll always be mine, love. Always, and I'll always be yours, as long as you'll have me." Thank you for listening to this chapter of The Handkerchief by Great78.